From busy downtown streets to neighborhoods that barely look the same today, these photos show how much America has changed. Let us know where you're watching from as we compare these cities then and now. 333 North Michigan Avenue became one of Chicago's landmark Art Deco skyscrapers after its completion in 1928. The historic tower still stands as part of the city's famous architectural skyline. Times Square looked nothing like the bright crossroads it is today when it was still called Longacre Square in 1900. Giant digital billboards now light up one of the world's busiest intersections. Main Street in Houston was filled with crowds as President John F. Kennedy's motorcade passed through the city on September 12, 1962. The street remains a busy downtown corridor, though the historic moment lives on in photographs. 3rd and Hill Streets in Los Angeles once overlooked the Grand Crocker Mansion in the late 1890s. High-rise buildings and modern development have completely reshaped the surrounding neighborhood. William K. Vanderbilt's Petit Chateau once stood proudly along Fifth Avenue in New York City. The mansion was demolished in 1927, making way for the modern office tower at 660 Fifth Avenue. Adams Street in Phoenix was once lined with modest buildings and light traffic during the early 1960s. Modern development has dramatically reshaped the same downtown corridor. 13th and Market Streets in Philadelphia glowed with Christmas decorations during the holiday season many decades ago. The intersection remains one of the busiest shopping areas in Center City. The Art Institute of Chicago opened its Grand Museum building in the 1890s, guarded by its famous bronze lions. The historic landmark still stands, expanded with a striking modern wing. Ocean Drive in Miami Beach was a quiet waterfront road during the 1920s before the city exploded in popularity. The street is now famous for its colorful Art Deco buildings and busy beaches. Chicago's South Branch of the Chicago River was crowded with swing bridges and heavy river traffic during the 1860s. Modern bascule bridges and a revitalized riverfront now define the same waterway. Fremont Street in Las Vegas still welcomed horse wagons alongside early automobiles in 1916. Neon lights and the famous Vegas Vic now define one of the city's best-known streets. Mott Street in New York City's Chinatown was filled with horse-drawn wagons and crowded sidewalks around 1900. The historic buildings remain, while modern traffic and storefronts define the street today. Prescott, Arizona earned a rough, Wild West reputation during the early days of the territory's gold rush. The historic downtown still survives, though the frontier days are long behind it. Spring Street in Los Angeles was lined with early commercial buildings during the 1880s as the city rapidly expanded. Modern high-rises have completely changed the character of the street. The Manhattan entrance to the bridge was still under construction after it opened in 1909. The restored arch remains, now surrounded by constant traffic in the heart of Chinatown. Wilshire Boulevard in Los Angeles was lined with billboards and low-rise buildings in 1928. Glass towers and dense development have completely transformed one of the city's most famous streets. Bryant Park in New York City once featured a demonstration garden beside the New York Public Library. It has become one of Manhattan's favorite gathering places, with trees and outdoor seating. Thousands gathered for Easter sunrise services at Papago Park in Phoenix during the 1930s beneath its red sandstone cliffs. The desert landscape remains, now surrounded by popular hiking trails and park roads. Central Avenue and Indian School Road in Phoenix were dominated by cars in 1973. Valley Metro Light Rail now runs through the intersection, changing how people travel across the city. Broad and arch streets in Philadelphia have changed dramatically over the past century, though one landmark remains. The 1862 United Methodist Church still stands beside the city's modern skyline. Seattle's waterfront was once hidden behind the massive Alaskan Way Viaduct, carrying thousands of vehicles each day. Waterfront Park now reconnects the city with Elliott Bay through open public spaces. Miami Beach was mostly open sand and scattered buildings in 1925 before decades of rapid coastal development. High-rise hotels and condominiums now stretch almost continuously along the shoreline. The El Rancho Vegas welcomed guests as the first resort on the Las Vegas Strip during the 1940s. After the hotel burned down, a modern Hilton Grand Vacations Tower rose on the site. 14th Street and 8th Avenue in Manhattan bustled with pedestrians and street traffic in 1937. The historic corner remains, while a modern subway entrance now dominates the sidewalk. The Chicago River east of Michigan Avenue was once an industrial waterway lined with warehouses and shipping. Luxury towers, hotels, and the Riverwalk have completely transformed the waterfront. Main Street and Franklin Street in Houston bustled with streetcars, storefronts, and pedestrians during the early 1900s. The intersection remains part of downtown, surrounded by restored historic buildings. Wooster Street once framed the Twin Towers rising above Lower Manhattan during the late 1970s. One World Trade Center now stands in their place, reshaping the city's skyline. Boston's Old State House stood above a much smaller city in 1900 after witnessing many defining moments in American history. Glass towers now rise around the building, though it still anchors the same corner. State and Lake Streets in Chicago were once filled with streetcars, passing beneath the elevated railway in 1947. Cars have replaced the rails, while the famous L still crosses above the intersection. Las Vegas's original railroad depot welcomed passengers in 1910, helping shape the city's early growth. The Plaza Hotel now occupies the site, with only the nearby tracks recalling its railroad past. Washington's National Mall was once a wide-open lawn, stretching toward the Capitol with few landmarks. It has since grown with museums, memorials, and the Lincoln Memorial at its western end. 3rd Street and Central Avenue in Cincinnati was once a busy neighborhood filled with homes and businesses. Interstate 75 and large parking areas replaced much of the original community. East 4th Street in New York's East Village looked worn and neglected during the late 1970s. Trees, restored buildings, and cleaner sidewalks have completely changed the feel of the block. Union Square West in New York City looked very different around 1894, when the Decker Building dominated the corner. The landmark still stands beside one of the city's busiest farmers markets. Main Street in Kansas City's Riverfront district was packed with historic buildings, in 1893. Highways and parking lots later replaced much of the neighborhood that once stood here. Van Nuys Boulevard and Delano Street in Los Angeles looked almost rural in 1926 with dirt roads and scattered buildings. Wide boulevards, traffic lights, and busy businesses now fill the intersection. Elfreth's Alley in Philadelphia has welcomed residents since the early 1700s as America's oldest continuously inhabited street. The historic homes remain beautifully preserved along the narrow brick lane. Faneuil Hall and Quincy Market were already the busy heart of Boston during the 1920s, surrounded by open streets and market stalls. The area is now packed with restaurants, shops, and visitors. Philadelphia's City Hall towered above North Broad Street when it was completed in the early 1900s. Modern skyscrapers now surround the landmark, but William Penn still overlooks the city from above. East 4th Street in Cleveland, Ohio, was once a busy commercial block serving the growing downtown. It has become a lively pedestrian street, lined with restaurants and entertainment. Houston's Central Fire Station stood at Texas Avenue and San Jacinto Street in 1921, when horse-drawn wagons still shared the streets with early automobiles. The historic building now serves as a homeless outreach center. Palazzo d'Italia at Rockefeller Center housed a Trans World Airlines ticket office in 1961. The landmark building remains, though modern retail stores now fill the ground floor. Main Street in Chardon, Ohio was once lined with traditional storefronts serving the local community. Many of those historic buildings still stand beside the modern businesses of today. Bourbon Street in New Orleans looked much quieter during the 1960s, before becoming a world-famous nightlife destination. Crowds, music, and glowing signs now fill the historic French Quarter. Peachtree Street has long been the heart of downtown Atlanta, hosting parades, businesses, and movie premieres. The street remains one of the city's busiest corridors, surrounded by modern towers. Market Street in Philadelphia was lined with busy markets and streetcars during the early 1900s. The markets have disappeared, replaced by modern stores, offices, and constant city traffic. San Francisco's waterfront looked very different before the Golden Gate Bridge connected the city to Marin County. The famous bridge now dominates one of America's most recognizable skylines. St. Bartholomew's Church stood above a much lower skyline in New York City during 1942. Towering office buildings now surround the historic church in the heart of Midtown Manhattan. Tiffany & Company's grand flagship store stood in New York City during 1890 with its famous cast-iron facade and clock. A modern glass office tower now occupies the same location. Main Street and Prairie Street in Houston looked remarkably similar nearly a century ago. Landmarks like the Rice Hotel and Commerce Towers still define much of the downtown skyline. Main Street in Mantua, Ohio was once lined with small local businesses serving the growing village. Many of the historic buildings remain, though the street has taken on a much more modern appearance. Grand Central Terminal's dining concourse once featured its original station layout beneath the platforms. It has since become a busy food hall, serving commuters and visitors alike. Grand Avenue and First Street in Los Angeles were lined with homes before Bunker Hill was redeveloped. The striking Walt Disney Concert Hall now dominates the same downtown corner,